yeah, all right, Filecoin. All right, what's up with Filecoin as a storage product? What about product market fit in Filecoin? So I was actually reading through the slides yesterday, JV talking about the elements of product market fit, and I was like, traction, solving a real user need, and I think the third one was market and timing, right? And I have a somewhat uncomfortable hypothesis to throw out here, which is that Filecoin nailed the market and timing aspect of PMF without solving a real user need. Now that might be uncomfortable for all of us to sit with, but here is my sub hypothesis here, and I realized as I was rereading this might sound kind of harsh, but but just as a survey, okay, my hypothesis is no one really misses Filecoin other than the people making money on it. Like, do any of you all have a user who, if Filecoin went away tomorrow, they would be like, oh no. Come on. Prove me wrong. Yeah? I would be upset. You'd be bummed. Are you an actual user of Filecoin? Do you store data on Filecoin? Yeah. Okay. And you're running NFT storage? Tell me how are you using Filecoin? Yeah, NFT storage. Maybe for cat pics. Okay. All right. Still a pretty empty room, right? And here's my argument as to why, right? The storage and retrieval parts of Filecoin as products are not competitive, even as archival storage. Another, again, strong hypothesis, uncomfortable. And then the other part, there are some long-term crypto economics challenges. I'm not going to get into that. They're probably, I don't think that they're the end of the world. So, cool. Why is this? Why are they not competitive? Why is Filecoin not competitive? Well, what is a storage product, right? I think a lot of folks building Filecoin way back in the day were thinking storage product is putting hard drives on the internet. That's not what a storage product is. Storage product is a lot of things. It needs to be reliable, as in it's not going to lose your data. It needs to be available, as in you're going to get your data back. It needs encryption, most likely, or some other form of privacy, right? The other option is access control, neither of which are built into the protocol and which we're still developing. And I know, I like that, what was it, digital property rights management? Okay, that's a good term because ACLs are really broken in the decentralized world as an entire concept, so we really need to figure out how to get there. By design. It's not just that, mutable collections. Very simple, like a very simple thing. People like directories. It's like kind of a baseline. If I'm going to use a storage product on the internet, I want to name things, I want to put them somewhere, and I want to be able to list them, right? And super easy APIs. I do not want to have to think about how I get my data onto the internet. And all of these things exist already in a mature market with massive players offering fairly decent product at a decent price. So that's interesting, right? What are we doing? so here's a Storacha strategy. Here's how we're trying to do this, right? So we have a strategy which is like, I think I've said this in a couple places, we don't really try to compete in Web 2, right? We acknowledge that we are not going to be AWS tomorrow, but we think we can be good, fast, and easy. Like we can deliver those things that are in that list well enough. And anyone who's not committed to delivering all those things in the list well enough, then you might as well not offer a storage product. So we're trying to be good, fast, and easy, meet the bare minimum. And then we think the place we can sell that is in Web3 first, because there's sentiment that's already aligned, and there's people who just don't want to put their stuff on decentralized storage. However, I don't think that that's a solution. I mean, I'm up here to talk about our product market fit, and I am like, we're doing our best, we're constantly thinking, we're constantly innovating, and I also have questions. Sentiment will not get you there. Most folks in Web3 who are building products doing something else, they are focused on the something else, right? They're focused on their product, and whether their storage is decentralized or not is an afterthought, usually until they're a little larger, right? If they're a little larger, maybe they get a few people in their ecosystem saying, hey, why are you on AWS? That kind of thing. But I think we've got an easier vector in there, and I think we can get things going. But then there's the last bit. We've got to discover some killer features that we can do with decentralized storage that we can't do. with other forms of storage. And this is where we're really trying to think and constantly innovate. And this is my, yeah, and so actually I'm gonna jump one. And there's another, this is what I wanna throw out here as an idea, right? It's a little bit of a 2010s idea, but it's not, maybe it's still relevant, which is the concept of disruption, right? A lot of people think of, oh my God, disruption, you introduced an iPhone and blew away the world. That's not what the actual theory is. Being disruptive is introducing a product that enables access to a class of people who couldn't previously access the market, right? That could be in a million different ways, and it usually involves doing it cheaper or just simpler, right? I think there's some interesting things that we can do in our space because we are fundamentally content address storage. We're fundamentally I'm so sorry. And those of us who are exploring some of the authorization and access control and digital property rights management, there's some really interesting things you can do with that because ACLs really are a very Web2 concept. They're literally trust. That's all they are. I put it on Amazon. I trust them not to serve it to other people, and that's pretty dangerous, right? Like, so I think I heard Mark talk about the concept of like people no longer, like very quickly starting to worry about where they put their data. And I think there's possibilities if we can really deliver a good product and then we can innovate on this whole concept of user-controlled data. There's a lot of things you can do with user-controlled data. You can do one market that we're looking at is gaming and the possibility of essentially trading NFT game assets. And it's useful for that data to be user controlled because otherwise the company that's running the marketplace is in charge of basically managing all of that, and that's a pain in the butt. There's a number of applications. Obviously, one that we are looking at is the sort of output of all these DePIN networks. The DePIN networks, they generate a lot of data. They want a place to put it. Unless there's minimal barrier to entry, they're going to just put it on AWS when push comes to shove, no matter what they say. But there's interesting questions. And again, we should be really thinking about this question of private data, because one of the biggest things that people are going to be worried about with AI training models is where they go and who has access to them. I do want to talk about how Storacha, and then I'll take questions. I'm trying to keep this short so that this can be more Q&A. I want to talk about how Storacha is specifically interacting with Filecoin, because I know I opened this with some very intense slides. So first of all, Filecoin is great technology. There is great technology, and there is in Filecoin something that solves a real problem in decentralized storage, which is POREP. And the problem it solves is durability. Durability means your data doesn't get lost. Now, the problem with POREP is on its own, it doesn't solve availability, which is the other part of a storage product, namely the ability to get your data back quickly, right, and reliably. But it's interesting because you will see, you will see other storage players who are much better on availability, but they don't have a durability solution, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, we're doing all this testing of oh, the data's still there and whatnot. But if the data's gone, the data's gone, and they don't really have a way of guaranteeing through multiple copies that you can have it backed up. I think there's something valuable there. Also, Filecoin has Web3 ecosystem. Some of the best technologists are in Filecoin. That's why I will always go to Filecoin first, no matter what, because I believe in the technologists who are working on Filecoin. And I know that it can be hard. It can be, doesn't mean that we always get it right, but there are dedicated people and they're smart and they're trying to figure it out, right? They're not just going to go on the sort of hype. Again, this seems to be suddenly this talk is the hard medicine, hard to swallow pills, but yeah. Okay, hard to swallow pills. Yeah, Filecoin may never be the #1 chain in the internet, right? We may never be a Bitcoin or an Ethereum, and at Storacha, we're going to hitch ourselves to what is useful. We see Filecoin as useful, right? And I think that Filecoin's best bet is to lean into its usefulness. And I will always put personally. I'm CTOing Storacha. I'm always going to come to Filecoin first. One, because I love the people involved, and two, because I actually do think that it's got some good stuff going on. But I have somebody does something better. Yeah, I'm running a business now too, or trying to, or pretending to run a business. So if there's something that works, that's what everyone's going to use. So that's my thought is just Filecoin should focus on things that work. That's it. Okay, but Q&A.
What features does Filecoin currently not have that would make it more useful for you?
So one is actually credit. The one cool thing about Filecoin is when it doesn't have something, and this might be a position that I'm somewhat uniquely in as someone who's worked on it for many years and knows a lot of the people involved. But it needs a mechanism for ensuring the simplest one, reliable retrieval. And then immediately after that, access control. And you haven't got to table stakes till you have those two, in my opinion. The rest of it can be built on top, but and reliable retrieval is, to me, a combination of a lot of the initiatives that are in progress. And again, like I said, the cool thing about Filecoin is I was like, well, how are we going to use Filecoin if it doesn't have a proof that your unsealed data is right there ready to retrieve? And then the Phil Oz team wrote that. So, and the Curio team supported that. And we've worked with them and we've shipped it in 3 months. So pretty good turnaround, really responsive people. And again, I don't know how much of this room is product people or tech people. I've always felt terrible for product people in this space because it's what the fuck is going on here? These programmers are doing whatever the fuck they feel like. I'm sure that's the feeling. But the reality is a lot of the fucking, I said long day. A lot of the technologists are really, really smart people who really care and are gonna build the things as soon as they know how to build them, right? That's another thing, is sometimes we don't know, yeah. So anyway, so Filecoin is shipping proof of data possession, which helps with unsealed data. And then following that, I think Spark and maybe a couple other things around that can get us closer to reliable retrieval. I personally have opinions about how that retrieval works as someone who worked on those protocols that do the retrieval for a very long time, wrote a couple of them. I think we should, personally, I would call, I don't know. I would just drop Bitswap, GraphSync, and HTTP payload retrievals and just do piece retrieval. That's what I would do. And do ranged piece retrieval and treat it as an indexing problem, because that's what a storage provider can deliver, and reliably deliver. I realize that puts a lot of onus on the L2 that's building on top of it, but yeah. I don't know if that was too much in the weeds for some of y'all. Yeah.
Well, I have something. Well, first, when are you going to get rid of the W3S DNS that's still in place?
You mean W3S.link?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to be careful about getting rid of any links that are accessed bajillions of times.
Which is related to
exactly.
The customers that were ported over from Web3, and then talk about maybe the churn of those customers and/or how are you ensuring that they basically are staying on board? Because it was the first solution in a lot of respects. So you have this existing customer base, and then trying to, in theory, when time comes, sell them these new features.
Of course.
Are you getting feedback loops from them? Or is it somewhat of just I don't remember those customers all that well. I remember seeing some of them.
So interestingly, that transition, I don't know if, for those of you guys who aren't deep in how the sausage is made over at Storacha and Web3 storage, that transition began actually a lot earlier than you might imagine. Web3 storage shipped a brand new version of its product in November of 2023. And that transition was the last transition that we expect people to make. Everyone else, we're trying to basically pull the underlying storage technology out from under without them noticing. But that was the transition there's still gonna be more stuff. I mean, and this is a hard reality, is that we are shipping products that are still developing, and we're just gonna have to bring people along in whatever ways we can. We try to be really clear on our messaging, and we try to give people time to move over, and we try not to drop our quality of service. Honestly, I think if you can do that, people will deal with a little bit of pain. But yeah, that's the trick.